Welcome to Vanished Vail, the monthly series where we take you to Vail's special places. I'm here in front of the Marsh Station Section Foreman House at the Esmond Station K8 School. 100 years ago, anywhere you traveled on the railroad, you would pass by houses just like this. The houses were built from a standard plan. All of the parts were pre-cut and they would be shipped to a little railroad service point or community that were located about every 10 or so miles. They were everywhere that a section would end. And a section was the distance that a railroad worker, a man, could walk in a day to keep up the maintenance on the track. Those sections were established to keep the trains supplied with fuel, water, and to house the workers that were essential to maintaining the tracks and keeping the trains running. This style of house was for the section foreman and his family. The section foreman was in charge of the section gang. The section foreman and his family would have lived and worked right next to the tracks in a house just like this. Vail is a railroad town, and for much of the early history of Vail, the Section Foreman House was at the center of the community. But as technology allowed trains to go further, faster, and track maintenance could be performed with advanced tools and smaller work crews, the necessity for the section gangs and the section foremen and their houses disappeared. By the mid-1960s, the section houses in Vail, Esmond, and Marsh Station stood empty. Little railroad towns like Vail, Pantano, Marsh Station that had sprung up all across the country suddenly turned into ghost towns. Many section foreman houses and other railroad buildings some were moved to other railroad communities, some were sold, some were abandoned, fell into disrepair, and some were demolished. But here in the Southwest, little goes to waste. And this section foreman house, originally from Marsh Station, just about 8 miles east of Vail, went on to have 3 other lives after the railroad. In the 1960s, a man named John Dewey purchased this house and moved it to land that he owned near what was then Rita Station. And then a few years later, he had to move the house yet again, and he moved it to Kolb and I-10. Incredibly, we have footage of that first move and of the house in its old and then its new environment. Enjoy. When Esmond Station K8 School was being proposed in 2012, there was a desire by the school district and the site council to incorporate the local history of Esmond Station and the importance of the railroad to the school. There's actually a section of railbed that bisects the school. Now, the Vail Preservation Society, in partnership with the Vail School District, envisioned a school built around local heritage, and there was this opportunity to purchase the Marsh Station Section Foreman House that presented itself at just the right time. But getting the house in place for the school to be built around it wouldn't be all that easy. Having already moved once and having spent several decades in disrepair, the Marsh Station Section Foreman House's third and final move would be a monumental undertaking. Wow, this is what the house looked like when we first found it. Very different than it looks today. One of the things we did before we moved the house was to do some remediation, and we removed any lead paint and then painted the house with special paint to encapsulate any residue. We wanted the house to be very safe to work on. So months of preparation went into getting the permits, selecting the route, insurance, getting everything ready. And about 3 weeks before the house was to move, we lost our house mover and we had to find another one. Thank goodness we found Garrett Denny and Sons, and they did a fabulous job for us. But then we had one more surprise in store. A week before the move, we discovered that one of the high power lines that the house had to go under couldn't be de-energized. And so we had to remove the roof, and we would put the roof on again later. So here we are a week out from the move. We had to remove the roof. So the chimney also had to be removed for the move. And we made sure that we would be able to get it back exactly as it was originally, and every brick was numbered as it was taken apart. And so when you come to see the Section Foreman House today, every brick is back exactly in the same place that it started. Now, the house had to move, per the permit, between midnight and 6 a.m. So a lot of preparation that day, because the house was going to leave its location at I-10 and Cold Road right at midnight so it could make the trip. So we had lots of help from the Pima County Sheriff. We had those wide load trucks, warning everyone. We had sheriffs stationed at intersections to divert traffic. At one point, we had to actually take the house down the wrong side of the road. The route had to be carefully planned out all along the way. We have this great footage of the house making its final move to Esmond Station K8, working with filmmaker Dennis Ferris. So he leapfrogged the house. He would film at one intersection and then get in his car and drive forward 2 intersections down so he could be all ready when the house came by. The other really nail-biting part of the move, schedule-wise, is that we were not only did we have time constraints about what time of day the house could move, about getting a house mover that would stick with the project. We were also up against the construction. Esmond Station K-8 had to stay on schedule to meet budget and to meet timeline for opening that fall for students. So the day that the house moved was the very last day that it could make its way to where its foundation was waiting for it. The night we moved the house, that following morning at 6 a.m., construction crews would be on site to start building what would become the west wall of the multi-purpose room, where the gym and all the children eat lunch and things like that. And once that wall started going up, there was no way to get the house onto its foundation. So this was it. We knew we had to make it. It all worked out. It was a lot of hard work. A lot of people working together. It was a real team effort. But the house finally made its way to its last home. And now the Section Foreman House is right at the heart of the Esmond Station K-8 School. The rehabilitated Section Foreman House that I'm standing on the porch of is a great reminder that even as one chapter closes, its story doesn't necessarily end. And with enough effort, almost anything can be repurposed, reinvented, and given a new lease on life. Now you might be wondering how the Section Foreman House went from total disrepair to being the beautiful rehabilitated building it is today. Now that's a story we will explore in another Vanished Vail. See you next time.